Hello everyone, welcome to the Up All Night channel. Today I'm going to be introducing a knife, a Chinese clone that I will probably get a lot of hate for introducing, but you really shouldn't. I'm going to talk a lot of crap on it and give my thoughts on it. It's not either of these two. This one's a real Microtech, okay, with real M390, Bowler M390 steel. That's a double-edged configuration, made in the USA. Normally I don't buy clones, but if you look at my numbers for how many views I got on all my knife reviews and stuff, I got the most views on that cold steel Kobun clone. So I'm just kind of seeing what I'm just testing the waters to see if people are still interested in Chinese clones. And I found one that was pretty interesting. I thought it would be interesting because it has to be executed well for it to function well, and that knife is of course the Reate XO clone. Now let me first off say that the G10 is well done. The G10 is well done. The aluminum is well anodized. It is a nice knife. It functions mostly the same, right? It does not have satin grinds. It is done stonewash. It has D2 printed on the back of it, so you know what steel it is at least. This is not the greatest of clones, but it is a decent clone nonetheless. I've seen videos of the real ones. This is kind of this is somewhat of a poor attempt at making it, really. The Benchmade, this was a well done clone, right? Because it functions nearly as well as the real one, except that the steel's probably not quite as good because it's not S90V, and the clip you have to leave it on with that exact clip because you will easily de-thread the screw holes here and strip them by trying to put a new clip in if you're not super careful, which I wasn't careful enough. What? Can you sue me? I'm used to my threads working. But anyway, so this was a really good example of a clone, right? It functions as well as you can expect it to. While the pivot system is not exact as to what it should be, which is phosphor bronze washers, this is done on ball bearings. You might be able to see that here. Not so sure how well you can kind of get a glimpse of those ball bearings in there. Anywho, so it is a pretty nice knife. I loved it as a clone. It was pretty good. I've gotten some pretty decent clones in the past. I'm usually pretty good about how I pick them, but based on which seller and, how they look in the photos that they give, which is kind of funny because they never give it the photo with the axis lock in place because of copyright issues, but it does function well. They show them in the picture without the axis lock, but, that's just Photoshop for you. Anywho, the XO clone, though, let's get onto that. It's done in, a really deep gray Sierra blue type finish, bluish gray, kind of finish. It's more gray than blue, but it almost matches the Sierra blue on the iPhone 13. It's not the best. Usually I can kind of whip it out, but I will say that the fit and finish is pretty poor. You can see here that let me see if I can get it to focus. There we go. You can see here the screws offset. It's not perfectly flush. You can still see mill lines and machine lines in the grain of the metal. More so on this side, I think. If I can get it to... Yeah, see? You can see those fine mill lines by the Reate logo. So they didn't polish the metal very well before anodizing it, the aluminum. I'm pretty sure the real Reate Exos use titanium. If they don't and they do use aluminum, I mean, let's just say this was probably a poor choice for me to choose to review because I don't have a real one and I've never owned a real one. But I did want to get this fake one just to see if I even liked the concept, and also to ask around law enforcement officials and see what their thoughts are on about the legality of it in my state of Pennsylvania, because it just doesn't... you see, the thing is it technically uses a lever to deploy the blade. So because of this lever, that technically makes it a switchblade regardless of it being gravity, you know? So it technically, I don't know. I haven't asked around to law enforcement just yet, but I've done enough research now to where I feel like that's what they'll say is they'd want to take a look at it, and they'd be like, oh, well, it has a lever and it deploys via a lever, so I think this counts as a switchblade. But some cops might not know about that nuanced lever rule, so they might just say, oh, this is a felony, you shouldn't have this. This is against the Switchblade Act in Pennsylvania or whatever, you know, whatever their the Offensive Knives, you know, Offensive Weapons Act. It does deploy decent enough. Like, it's hard to do it on camera because I don't really have a lot of space to work with here, but whenever I tip it down, it glides right out. It's pretty smooth. It doesn't, you know, it's not the smoothest to deploy fast, but it can if you, with enough practice. I don't know if I'm chunking up the aluminum in there, though. Like, I feel like this is better made from titanium. And you'll see by the next knife I get towards Christmas, what I mean by, you know, what I'm about to say is the Chinese do have access to titanium. It's not like unobtainium, you know, pun intended. But, the lock does not work very well on this thing, and that probably is what sketches me out the most, is like, if there's pressure on the lock, yeah, it's not coming out. Like, there's enough, but as soon as the pressure releases, right, like, the lock's forward, but as soon as the pressure releases, right, and it wiggles a bit, it flops right open. So the lock on this is pretty null. I don't feel that great carrying it because of that. So it's probably not going to see much, if at any, like, all carry time. I carried it like a tiny bit, and funny thing about it is like, that means that even in the lock position, when I go to grab this from my pocket and it, you know, wiggles out, that means the blade's deploying as soon as I draw it, which is not ideal because it's not intended to do that, right? So that's not good. Otherwise, the fit and finish is relatively pretty. Relatively, right? Like, the anodized aluminum looks beautiful with that, you know, gray blue finish. Like, I got a love-hate relationship with this knife. I want to carry it, but because it's not the real thing and because it doesn't function as well as the real thing, I don't see myself carrying this. However, as a novelty, just to, you know, fidget with and play around with, like, I feel like it meets the criteria just for that, which is just opening and closing it, right? You know? But carrying it because of that lock malfunction, like, I don't feel like, yeah, this will not see a lot of, if at all, any pocket time. And I personally don't recommend it for that. But I did want to also get a glimpse of the overall viability of this type of design. And I think if that lock worked, you know, functionally, then this would be a really cool design to carry. Like, but otherwise, if it doesn't function, then it's not the greatest knife to pick, because as soon as I pick it out of the pocket, I'm most likely going to grab this wider portion here, and it's likely to deploy when I don't want it. So, those are my only qualms with it. It is D2 steel, aluminum body. The mill is done well. The fittings are done well. Nothing's come loose yet. It's not perfectly flush. I kind of like the way that G10 rises there, though. So, I mean, because, you know, I want a decent amount of grip on my knife. But And it's not the best at flicking out, but it is very intimidating when you do, because it makes a really crazy sound when you do. But anyway, I do really love this knife. I'm hoping to get a real one sometime in the future. I don't know when, but I do hope you've all enjoyed this review. I'm sorry if I'm missing out on anything. I do believe all the screws, all these things use T6. So there's that. It might be T7. I don't think it's T8. I'm pretty sure it's T6 though. So if I wanted to take it apart, I could. And if you're interested in that, comment below, and I'll do a, disassembly, and we can take a look at the finer pieces of how that lock works and why it's malfunctioning. Because I can tell you why it's not functioning. It's because that space right there, it's not getting good into that space right there. Because you see, when I close it and I push the lock up, like, that space is where I need that lock to sink in. And if it sinks in, it's not opening, right? Like, if I press on this lock, it's not opening. It's as soon as I let go of the lock and I wiggle, see, it's not solid enough. So it's not really great for carry. But if you just want something for novelty, this was around, 20, 30 bucks. If you just want something for novelty and you're interested in testing the Reate XO before getting a real one, let me just tell you, go ahead and probably get the real one. You'll be much more satisfied. This Reate XO clone, I'm not too pumped up about it, to be honest. It's cool. It's a nice fidget toy, but as far as actual pocketability, like I said, yeah, not the greatest knife to pick for that. Oh yeah, I guess I'll go over blade length specs for a minute here. This is about a 3.3 inch knife, so it's right about the same at 3.3 inches or so, or 3.1 or whatever the Trudon is. And I believe this is just under 3, or just right around that at 3 inches exactly, or just under. So yeah, it's sizable. It has a decent amount of grip. I love the grip to it. The fact that there's these milled, serrations here, I think these work great. They're really, it's a really cool design. I just, like I said, kind of wish I got the real one, but then again, the real one is way different in price tag. So, real one's $200. This was 20, 30. So I think this was understandable in being worse than the real thing. But I did order a ZT0620 today, clone. So hopefully I can do a review on that and compare it to, my memory of my real ones. I had the 0630 CF and I had the 0620 CF. I had the real ones from Zero Tolerance. They are now discontinued. The only one I can really find readily available is the clones. And I just kind of wanted to do a shout out to ZT and say that I wanted them remade again, even though that's kind of been done before. I think it needs reiterated, because the ZT 0620 and 0630 are really beautiful knives, and I feel like they need redone. Anyway, thanks for joining the channel. Hope you enjoyed this little review of this knife. If you were thinking about getting one, get a real one. The concept works. It just, this was poorly done. So, hope you have a good one. God bless. May your plates be full. May your cups overflow. Have a good one. In Jesus' name. Bye-bye.